guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Listen, you guys know what this is all about, right? Right? What's it all about? Spurgey?
Hard work and having fun.
That. This is about winning.
That was actually Bill Guerin in the Colorado Avalanche room last night before overtime. He had to come down there and just say, "Listen, guys, let's remind you what this is all about here, Colorado Avalanche."
Yep. Tim Connolly, take note. Derek Falvey, take note. Quasi, what's this all about?
By the way, if you guys missed the Tim Connolly, the Timberwolves' new president of basketball operations, he joined us last week. And you can go enjoy that. I got a follow-up note from the Timberwolves saying that he had thought more about his 90s comedies, and Cable Guy is one that we should put on our list. I've never seen Cable Guy somehow. Jim Carrey movie from the 90s. So.
It's very weird.
It's a strange movie?
Yeah,
Okay.
that might speak a lot about Tim Connolly. That's very interesting.
Kind of a weird guy? Okay.
It's a weird... It's Jim Carrey at Jim Carrey's weirdest, I would say.
Okay.
Which
is saying something because he's
that
had
sounds
some
plausible.
weird
he's fantastic. He's fantastic.
I love how Jim Carrey has basically decided that the actor that I was 20 years ago is not who I am. I am an existential being who is here to plug into the universe.
Man on the Moon is one of my favorite films.
I don't think I've seen.
Oh,
that
you've
one.
never seen him?
I mean, I've watched the original Kaufman, Jerry Lawler stuff going back years.
Oh, you've got to watch it, man.
That's the movie that made him crazy. He was in that character
and
for
he's him.
2 months or something.
But he really did it.
No.
Like, it's not like he thought. He was Kaufman. It's incredible.
Dude.
You'd love it. You got to see it. Make time soon.
I just like that the Timberwolves Pobo is spending multiple days thinking about his 90s movies and interacting with us.
You know why? Because he's sick of answering questions about, are you going to trade Russell? He likes questions that have nothing to do with basketball, probably.
Anyhow... Last night, you saw, and it's amazing, you get into the middle of June here, and it's such a foreign concept for our winter sports teams to still be playing hockey or basketball at this point, but other teams are every single year. And so, Judd, have you put together a list here? Is this an official list of things the Minnesota Wild can learn from other teams that have gone deep in the playoffs? And by the way, Declan's on vacation, so we have another hockey-loving producer here, AJ Fredrickson, with the hockey hair and the hockey playoff beard going.
Love the hair, by the way, again.
And so, AJ, you feel free to jump in with hockey takes because I know you have them. But what can the Wild, if they're sitting there with their Judd Zulgad notebook and pen and pad watching these games, what can they be learning right now?
So, actually, I think Dex and I did this exercise with the 4 teams that were in the conference finals a week and a half ago.
Well, that's a lifetime ago.
Exactly right. So now we're down to the final 2 teams. 2-time defending champion Tampa Bay Lightning and the Avs, who I think we all can safely say are the most skilled, talented team in the entire league for at least 2021-22. So it's interesting because the Wild, just to be clear at the outset, because I feel like people skew towards Judd's being negative again, right? So I don't want to mince words. I want to be very clear about the setup here. The Wild had a very nice year. The Wild has some talented players. I appreciate the fact that the GM in really the last window in about 3 years now, upcoming, had an opportunity to go for it at the deadline and did. So they tried. I don't think you can complain about that. It fell woefully short, but they didn't pull a Falvey and sit there and be like, well, we got Sam Dyson. What more could you want? I mean, Romo. So this team gave it a shot. It fell short. But I think now in looking at where the Wild's going to be up against the cap for 3 years, which they are, and in looking at what they have and don't have, and then you examine the Lightning and Avs right now. And I'm going to start here. And this is a problem that Bill Guerin bristled. In fact, when we talked to Bill before the season started on JHS, and Declan and I both broached this, and he bristled, which is great because I love the fact that he basically gives you crap right back. But let's start with center. I equate, now you could argue goaltenders too, but I'm going to say I equate centers in the National Hockey League today with starting pitching in baseball. Everyone has them, but who has the best ones? Who has and they fill certain roles. But here's where the Wild, I think, learned. Hartman and Goudreau, for the most part, centered the top two lines. And in the regular season, they did a very good job. Hartman had a career year. There's no question about it. But gentlemen, when we drop the puck in the springtime, everything changes. And literally to me, you didn't have an ace to send out. Eriksson Ek is very good at his role, but his role is very defined. Like, that's his role. Third line, sort of checking guy, certainly gives you intangibles, but you can't be like, just go, you know what? Take care of the first line too. He can't do that. And so number one is, if you look at the centers, the top line guys who are left, and you look at what the Wild put out there against the Blues, if you don't upgrade there, and the most important thing here too is, just like pitching, it's ordinarily internally, Marco Rossi has to develop here. Like, it's imperative he's good. But I think that we learned a very valuable lesson about how long can I get by with just guys as my top two players at that position, and really the shelf life is until the playoffs start.
Yeah, like do you have a Garrett Cole or do you have a Brad Radke? Because you can. I love the baseball comparison here. You can win a lot of games, as the Twins have done multiple times in the last 20 years, with some pretty good starting pitchers. You got Scott Baker and you got Francisco Liriano or a Jose Barrios or something. But when you start to cut bait on half the league doesn't make the playoffs, okay, now you're facing the 15, 16 best teams in the league, and then you get to the next round, and now it's down to the 8 best teams in the league, and then 4. What do those starting pitchers look like? What do those starting centers look like? Where does yours rank? That's another exercise, I guess. If you were to rank all of the centers among the last 4 teams left, going back to the conference finals, literally rank, all right, 3 centers from each team, from each 3 lines. Where would the Wild centers rank? I'm not asking you to do that right now, but certainly not number 1, 2, or 3, or 4, right? That's kind of the point that you're making here. Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Marco Rossi. I mean, the amount of video I've watched of him, and you say he has to develop and become that, I think he will. He's got all the tools. He still makes the mistakes of a 20-something-year-old guy. I think he actually might have just turned 20 this summer. But for taking as much off with his health as was needed to come back and immediately just step back in and play at the level that he was at, I think it shows great stuff for what he'll bring to the Wild in the coming years. And when it comes to the comparison, like you were saying, of baseball to the starting pitching, starting pitchers, they start the action. They are the chess players when it comes to baseball. It's, okay, slider, change up in the dirt, low and away, fastball up and in, whatever. Same thing with centers. They start the play. The face-off is one of the most crucial things that I think just gets overlooked. And that was a conversation that I had with many people throughout the season for the Wild. There was not a Ryan O'Reilly who you can send him out there and 60% of the time he's coming away with the face-off win. How many times did you see the Wild have a power play that immediately you could just take 40 seconds off because they're going to lose the face-off, the opposition's going to dump it down to the other end of the ice, and then they take 30 more seconds to get through neutral ice, reset up the zone, and who knows if they even do. All of a sudden, half the power play is gone, and you haven't even set anything up offensively. You're not controlling anything. You're handicapping yourself before you even get an advantage. It was one of the most frustrating things because I think, like you said, Ek has the job. He is shut down, and he was fantastic at that. If he stays a little more consistent throughout the year, he's probably a Selke finalist. But
yeah, he's a Selke type of guy. Yeah,
exactly. But you look at Patrice Bergeron, who can do that, but also is going to go out there and win you the faceoffs that you need. Even if, I think a lot of people towards the end of his stint here, Mikko Koivu was criticized for kind of what he brought to the team, but he was getting sent out there to win the faceoff and then get his butt off the ice so somebody else can go out there and be offensive. I have no problem as long as you have somebody who can go out there and win that draw, and then they take 3 seconds to skate off the ice real quick. Get somebody who can win a faceoff.
Mm-hmm. I'll bet you guys didn't know that we just have a stash of producers that can just sling hockey takes.
Just no hockey.
Like you think Declan, AJ, we've got like 5 other producers
AJ
too that can just sling hockey takes.
AJ brings it, and where he is exactly right is this. The problem is faceoffs get dismissed now entirely. Oh, faceoffs aren't nearly as important. Yeah, it's quick possession, but where he just hit a home run with that take is it depends where the face-off is. If it's a face-off to start a power play, you lose that face-off. It gets cleared. The puck gets cleared.
That's
right?
20 seconds off your 2 minutes. Yeah. Exactly.
Now, a face-off in neutral. Yeah, okay. Too bad. But it all depends on where that face-off is. So that is point one. Centers is incredibly important. Talking point two, what can the Wild learn from what they're watching right now with the Avs and Lightning? It's very simple. Goaltending. The only reason why people think, and they're not wrong, I think the primary reason why some people are picking the Lightning to beat the Avs is because Tampa Bay, Vasilevsky in goal is unbelievable. Kemper, he's shaky. If Jesper Wallstedt, who was a first-round pick, I think it was 20th overall by the Wild last year from Sweden, he played in Sweden this past winter. He's going to come here and I believe play or start 2022-23 in the American Hockey League. But this is the type of guy who I think has a real chance to be your goaltender and be your playoff guy. And look, I loved the shot that was taken by Guerin on Fleury. It was a good shot. Like he had playoff experience, Stanley Cup experience. He clearly was not as good as we all hoped or thought that he might be in the playoffs against the Blues. That being said, I think Wallstedt might be your guy. And we can argue about goaltending and it's fluky, goals are fluky, blah, blah, blah. But this always goes back to the Dubnyk conversation of in the playoffs, does he ever win you a game? Not like multiple games, but, in a series, can he make stops that win you 2 games? And if the answer is no, you're ordinarily in trouble. The Rangers took the Lightning so far into their series because Shesterkin in goal was phenomenal. Now he's their guy. They developed him. Jesper Wallstedt gives the Wild, I think, that chance. But we again are seeing really, I think, why unless your team is like the Avs can just score at will at times, why goaltending in the playoffs becomes ultimately incredibly important. You can't dismiss it.
Let me ask you this, because getting past the Blues would have been nice, but you would have faced the Avalanche in the second round. And the Blues were quickly disposed of by the Avalanche. What would the commentary around the Wild be if they would have gotten past the Blues, but then they got smoked by the Avalanche in 4 or 5 games? What would we be saying about this team? Would we feel better because, hey, they won a playoff series, or would we still be sitting here and, well, once again, this team fails in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. They can't get to a conference, finals for the last 20 years.
I think we would have been saying, because the Avs are so good, I don't think there would have been a big disappointment. I feel like the fact that the Wild was so good and then flamed out fairly quickly. And look, that last game is still, I think, a massive disappointment. Like, that was a terrible game. I think if you go into the second round and beat the Avs, that there is more hope. That being said, you guys, I didn't really ultimately sense the angst about the loss to the Blues that I thought I would. Like, there were people upset, but it was pretty quick. I thought that there would be, coming off the season that this team was, and the revamped roster, the trade deadline moves, I thought that there would be more angst. But I think if you had gotten to the second round and lost to the Avs, dare I say it, I think it almost would have been hopeful. Like, hey, that's a nice step.
The reason why I think that it flared out as quickly as it was is, in terms of Minnesota sports GMs, I think in his somewhat short tenure, I might trust Bill Guerin more than any other one that I've seen in quite a while, because he's very upfront about what he wants to do. He's truthful. He doesn't beat around the bush, and he's willing to, when he recognizes, because he's so closely removed from the game, he's almost like a player still. He recognizes, hey, we really have a chance here. We're going to go chips all in. And he was able to make moves at the trade deadline that didn't, crutch the Wild for this upcoming draft. They still have picks in each of the first 5 or 6 rounds. So it's not like he mortgaged the future on getting that future Hall of Fame goaltender.
Also, his biggest, ballsiest move, getting rid of the 2 veteran stalwarts that signed 13-year contracts, it worked. He comes in and he just says, guys, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to buy these guys out. We're going to take a salary cap penalty, basically. And it worked. They got better immediately after those guys were gone.
That's a great point too, because
Thank you. Yes.
to
Hockey
go back,
Whisperer is on
well,
vacation and hiatus
you too,
for an
but I
undetermined
was
amount of
saying
time.
the
But
producer. So flashback to 2019. If the Twins go out and get like a top line starter, and so it's not Dominic in game 2, it's top line guy game 1 against the Yankees, Barrios game 2, they still lose. AJ might be right. We might have perceived that differently, as if, well, they took a shot.
Yes,
like
100%,
I think what drives us crazy to the point is Randy Dominic started game 2.
yes, there's an understanding. I'm glad you brought this up.
This is a
Another
great
great point. Great
AJ,
points
the
being
hair.
made.
Declan
Great
might
points
be
being made all around.
This is as close to the edge as Dex has been. Like, he doesn't even know it. He's on a beach getting drunk, and he might be at the edge.
Like, I think there's this thought that,
this.
well, if they make the trade, the Twins I'm talking about, if they make the trade that you're talking about, go get, let's say it's Frankie Montas this year, and Frankie Montas gives up 5 runs in his only playoff game, then you guys are just going to rip the Twins for making a failed trade. No, that's not true at all.
Right.
There's an understanding that when you make a big move in hockey, you go get Marc-Andre Fleury or you go get a pitcher and you give up future assets, there's an understanding, or there should be, that it might not work. When the Cubs go trade for Aroldis Chapman as the final piece to their pitching staff, going into their 108th year without a World Series championship, there's a chance it might not work. In fact, Aroldis Chapman got lit up, if I remember, a couple times in those playoffs. But you have to take that chance. If there's a 20% chance that you can push for it. So the fact that Billy Guerin is willing to make big moves, maybe that don't work, puts him in a different category as a GM. He's not just this scared, nervous guy that's, oh my God, what if we, Because
I think what it comes down to, and you can ask, I would say 80% of sports fans, probably more, would agree with this. All they want to do, like, if you're successful enough, as long as management puts forward the effort to, say, we are trying. We know you want a championship. We know you want success, and we're trying to give it to you. That's if they can do that, and that's what we talked about kind of yesterday with what I feel about the Twins right now. They got the moves on the batting side, and they got the fielding as well. It's the pitching that's just lacking, but Bill Guerin going out and getting that guy. Because when a team can make moves at the trade deadline, because there's only one champion at the end of the season. People have to make moves, but the runners-up, whoever loses in the Stanley Cup Final or the NBA Finals or the World Series, their fan base obviously is going to be upset, but they're not going to be resentful of the ownership. It shouldn't be a business mindset. Obviously, I understand that's why they're in it, and me, just a common guy, I don't understand all the figures that go into it. Thank you.
Don't say
but just put forward the effort of, we want to win a championship as much as you want them to win a championship.
And this is also, I think it goes beyond fans too. I think this is what is fair to players. Like the players, the Twins, right? Correa is saying, we need a little bit more here. And because he sees opportunity. I think that's what Guerin at least did. Now, it didn't work, but he gave it that shot. And so I think that there is a more forgiving feeling of, well, at least you tried. Where I think what drove us crazy, especially in 2019 for sure, is the Twins basically went and got 2 guys off a scrap heap, and we're like, well, good enough, right? And we're all like, no.
One of them wound up not pitching at all, right? Or
and was a
couple
terrible human
games
being.
or something. Yeah,
beat his cat up or something. Like, we thought that he loved the cat, and he beat the cat up or something. Terrible.
Yeah, I think sometimes front offices overestimate. Well, if we trade this young player, well, a couple things here. There's a thought that if you trade a young player or a prospect and that prospect blows up and becomes amazing somewhere else, that you've lost the trade. That's not necessarily true. I'll go back to that Cubs example. Look at some of the young players the Cubs traded away like 6 years ago. They're all awesome.
Well, Eloy Jimenez went to the White Sox for Jose Quintana. Definitely lost that trade, but right now Eloy is hurt about as much as Byron Buxton. But for the Aroldis Chapman trade, you know who they sent to the Yankees? Gleyber Torres. Mm-hmm. He looked like he was going to be the next big thing. It's kind of evened out here. But even if he becomes a superstar, they won the World Series. I'm fine with him. He could be a Yankees legend. I don't care. You got the World Series. You ended the curse. Who cares? All's forgiven. You made the move to do what you wanted to do.
And there's a balance. You don't want to just trade all of your top young players, obviously, but The Twins just have almost at every single turn and now this year, credit to them for getting Sonny Gray, credit to them for getting and signing Carlos Correa. But, I know this is a wild conversation that's kind of morphed into a Twins conversation, but just to tie it all together, AJ used the word resentful. Fans kind of resent the Twins for never really giving teams that final push at the trade deadline. Right. It's hard to resent the Wild. You can be annoyed at the Wild and frustrated. My God, why can't they just get into the third round of the playoffs or a Stanley Cup Finals? But it's usually not for lack of trying something big, especially under the Bill Guerin watch here the last couple of years.
And the last thing, and this is very tough because it can be obtained, but it's also a balancing act. Watch Colorado and especially Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is back-to-back defending champs. I believe they have won 11 consecutive playoff series. They are as mentally tough. Last night, they're on the road in a building that's going crazy, down by 2. All hope is lost, right? They tied this. And now they lost the game, but I don't care. They are so tough, and they know how to win. Like you talk about culture, that culture is scary good. Like they have guys, everyone on that team knows their role. And look, they've got some great talent too. So I'm not saying that they don't have talent. They definitely do. But everyone on that team from Stamkos to the sick boy knows their exact job. And look, the hockey playoffs, and I have said this from day one, are great to watch. They're great fun. In my opinion, the best playoffs in sports. But if you're a player, I think they're awful. I think they're absolutely brutal. Guys are blocking shots. Guys are coming back with broken bones to try and play. Guys are doing things that seem to me in 2022 to be stupid. But you know what? They're doing it. Yeah. But it's worse than, at least in football, you play the game and then it's just done. In hockey, it's like, okay, game 2. Now game 3. And so that's the thing. I mean, Bill Guerin literally needs more Bill Guerins. And
it's a gang of just six roving Bill Guerins.
Bill Guerin bounced from team to team because he knew how to win, and teams wanted what he brought, and that is the intangibles that are so hard to find. I don't know how to put this, but basically my synopsis of how the playoffs have to be approached is this: 2 months where nothing else matters.
No, it's I think you summed it up. It's great to watch as a fan, but it's very torturous as a player over the 2 months.
It's ridiculous.
So, and if you're not getting enough of a sweat as it is on some of these games, the best way to get a sweat is through our friends at Underdog Fantasy and the Underdog Fantasy app, which lets you either draft fantasy teams for the night or for seasons in just minutes, or you can play pick'em games, which consist of over-unders. And the pick'em games allow you to win up to 20 times your money in one night. So it's just a blast to play games on Underdog Fantasy. It's very easy. Judd has figured out how to use it. You can sign up with the promo code SCORE, SKOR. You can help us out by putting in that promo code. But you can help yourself out because Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100 in bonus cash. So check them out, Underdog Fantasy and Underdog Fantasy app.
Guess who won $15 on Underdog last night?
Look at this guy right here. Look at this guy. That's right.
McKinnon got his points. Vasilevsky made his saves. Guess who won $15? Put $15 right in the account.
Big
got
money.
A little sweat on.
Take the wife out for a big dinner later on tonight.
Oh, I'm gonna go get her a hamburger,
some Chipotle or something. All right, we're gonna pause here, get to our friend Darren Doogie Wolfson for a scoop session. It is Reckless Speculation Thursday after all here on Mackey and Judd.